What's up, Turbo Virgins? Stevie here. Just got back from machine gun jackhammering my dick for the past 7 hours to the new Samsung anime girl. Today, I'm going to be talking about the different kinds of duelists you'll see in DV Ranked. Whether they'd like to admit it or not, every DV player, and I mean every DV player, fits into a category, often shifting and blending types depending on things such as the state of their parents' divorce or how far they are from reaching their 13th birthday. Although rare, it is possible for one player to rapidly shift and homogenize multiple categories throughout the span of a single duel. But this is exclusive to those who decide that an appropriate way of dealing with a loss at locals is to chomp on their opponent. It also helps to know who you are and where you're going, which realistically as a Yu-Gi-Oh player isn't much further than a long-term career employment at Walmart. The purpose of this video is to identify some of the different types and teach you how to play with them, as well as help you figure out which type you are and suggest ways for you to play and use your abilities and disabilities to your advantage. Without further ado, the first category is the for fun or casual player. An average casual can be identified within the first 20 seconds of the game based on whether or not they type GLHF followed by a colon and closing parentheses. They're frequently found playing 53 card decks since they couldn't find anything to cut, as well as being AFK in games to pick up their pizza and or Uber Eats delivery, oftentimes complaining about how their driver, Abdul, is 2 minutes late, causing them to trap us within a waiting purgatory as if it wasn't their fault that they decided to go and order some food, and then queue up for ladder, leading to their opponents going through all 5 stages of grief, all because some fuckhead couldn't wait 20 minutes to order some food before queuing up with Chaos Max. More often than not, this is the category that the aforementioned child chompers initially fall into, until an incredibly stressful event such as having to play against a deck with cards with more than one line of text befalls them. If you suspect that you're with a for fun player, you can confirm your suspicions by checking their YGO scope. If they're on a deck that has more than 7 archetypes within the descriptor and has a win rate within the negatives, congratulations on your accurate analysis. With any luck, their caretaker will have loosened the straps on their helmet before letting them onto the computer, so that you can enjoy even a semblance of the game you once enjoyed. The only way to survive a game like this is to take control. Not of the game, of course, since that is entirely within the hands of the mentally deficient individual playing Subterror. No, you have to take control of the player themselves by channeling your inner wrangler. Hopefully, by playing against them, you'll be able to gain some fake internet points, or solitaring against a Blue Eyes player before being called a racial slur or a meta sheep before being quit on. Unfortunately, the best course of action is one that must be taken by the casual themselves, so if this sounds like you, for the betterment of the Yu-Gi-Oh community as a whole, I recommend you take the following steps. After logging on to Dueling Book, go to your local community college and register for an elementary statistics course, as well as learn how to use a hypergeometric calculator. For the kids still playing Invoked, Yu-Gi-Oh! Party works just as well. After learning that maybe playing unsearchable power cards at 1 is a bad idea, that is when you can return to playing Burn on ladder. Next is the Addict. These are the players that hate the game but are physically incapable of stopping themselves from playing it. They usually forsake things such as jobs, friends, hygiene, and generally anything that would make them a functioning member of society. The Addict is most commonly found within the 2,000 to 40,000 experience level. Often, these once bright-eyed duelists, upon reaching 800 rating, began developing illusions of grandeur, imagining themselves as the next Cody Angelov. They then proceed to dedicate the next 3 years of their life to a pipe dream, streaming and creating Yu-Gi-Oh content on a nearly daily basis, eventually washing out and leaving them a husk of the person that they once were, now stuck in an eternal purgatory of playing a minimum of 14 hours of Dragon Link a day. Occasionally, you can see these players after a match posting their stream links, hoping to become a big streamer to justify their waste of time and fuel their addiction. If, for whatever reason, you decide to click on their stream link, there's a 50% chance you'll hear them telling their mom to get the fuck out of their room for asking them to get a job, a 50% chance that they're doing replay reviews to find new ways to blame getting sacked for their mistakes, and a 100% chance to listen to some type of EDM or anime music that's louder than the microphone itself. As a result of their over-dependency on Yu-Gi-Oh, they usually begin to develop a hyper-toxic attitude. So if you spot someone in your duel typing out why GOAT format was the peak of Yu-Gi-Oh skill and that you're a small-dicked brainlet because you normal summon tour guide, it's very likely that you're dealing with an addict. There are 2 separate options for dealing with these players when they start raging. The first is to cock ride them so hard that they develop an attachment, which should be easy considering their social deprivation. Compliment their plays and their deck. Be amazed at their Pokemon feet sleeves. Congratulate them on getting an A on that spelling test. Knowing that they're probably going to play another 1,000 games, these players need to be given a reason to give a shit about the game that they're currently in, and the best way to do that is to feed their ego as much as possible. The second option, in the path I usually take, is to hit them with statements such as, "Shut the fuck up, nerd," and then after the game, in an effort to help them become a better person, report them on the DB forums in the hope that they receive a temporary vacation from DB, allowing them to wean off their addiction. If this sounds like you, my recommendation would be to seek out disability checks for gaming addiction at your local underfunded VA, where the real heroes, the veterans of DB who still refer to it as Dueling Network, rightfully deserve to be treated. Next up are Mystic Mind Players. Disgusting. The next category are the people of the late night plague, and by that, of course, I mean the people who provide you with the late night cock and ball torture experience you get for playing ladder at later than 3 AM. You'll generally catch these players accusing other players of being meta cucks, while simultaneously in the process of having their wife fucked in the room next to theirs. They can often be characterized and identified by their unique statements, such as
Sì. Farfa 5.
and
Porca troia!
the likelihood of one of these players taking responsibility for their in-game decisions and deck building mistakes is the same as the chances of a certain country recognizing human rights, although a lack of ability to take responsibility for their own failings seem to be a trait shared amongst many duelists regardless of sect. I'd recommend avoiding these players at all costs by only queuing up earlier than 3 AM. However, if your addiction to Yu-Gi-Oh! Carries you late into the night, be sure to live alone, because victory is often decided by which player's mom doesn't check on whether or not they're still awake and pulling the plug on their computer. If you're queuing up late at night, good luck and Godspeed. I hope you win the RPS, and hopefully someday, Dueling Book will finally take my suggestion to build a great firewall and make Brazil pay for it. The final class of players who we will be identifying this video are the tryhards, also known as the one guy who thought that Monster Energy is a suitable replacement for a personality. These are the people who think that other people are intimidated by them when they make threats in chat, often trying their hardest to act hard or look like they don't give a fuck in order to put up an appearance that they think makes them look cool. Players like this tend to have a fat fucking ego, but rest assured, the only thing special about them are their needs. In reality, these are the people who think that floodgates like Max C and Tikaboo are healthy since they promote diversity and deck building and pay $50 for a gram of weed in a legal state and or country. Usually, you'll be able to spot these people early on by their excessive use of thinking on every single action you take and their 30 judge calls. If you start seeing signs that you're playing with one of these people, be sure to mentally prepare yourself for the Guantanamo Bay experience you're likely to be put through. Once inevitably angered that you ashed their Red Eyes fusion, they would begin digging as deep as they can into their developmentally stunted brains to deliver the best insult that they can muster. Afterwards, there's about a 95% chance that they maliciously AFK or start spamming the pause button. After about 10 minutes, they realize that a judge is actually watching the game as they try to backpedal it and play it out in a futile effort to reduce their sentence and explain that they were using the N-word ironically. In the event you win a game against one of these players, there's also a high chance that they close out with one of their many racial slurs as the last hurrah as they get their 4th permanent ban on Dueling Book this week. The recommended course of action for dealing with these players is to hope that they don't decide to AFK and immediately turn off sound effects, as it's certain that they'll be doing their best to break the world record for most clicks per second on the shuffle button. Under no circumstance should you directly engage with them. However, don't let these players hold your dick in a vice and making you too afraid to say anything out of fear of them going AFK or deciding to try and hotline coder at 3 AM. Instead, power move it by aggressively disregarding their shit talk by saying things such as, again, shut the fuck up nerd, or who asked. So long as you don't engage in full conversation and make sure they know that you don't recognize them as a person, there shouldn't be any problems with one-off statements like this. They should be able to handle these statements, as these players are the direct opposite of the Edo Pro player, who is incredibly sensitive and can't handle any sort of combo, critique, or critical thinking skills. Though to be fair, I'm fairly certain you lack these qualities as well. That's about it. See ya.